Hi everyone, it's TrailTrekBeck. So today we are in Queenston Heights, Niagara Falls, Ontario. The trail I'm about to embark on is called the Bruce Trail. And maybe you're familiar with this trail, maybe you're not, but the Bruce Trail actually begins in Niagara Falls, Ontario, and it's about 900 kilometers long and it ends in Tobermory, Ontario. So this is pretty exciting because this is where the trail begins, and it's actually a very, very famous trail in Ontario, and it's one of the oldest trails in Canada. So the trail mostly follows the edge of the Niagara Escarpment. And if you've ever been to Niagara Falls on either the Canadian side or the American side, you can see that the escarpment is basically a huge rock ledge and cliff that is separated by the Niagara River. So the land that the trail traverses through is actually owned by a series of different parties. Some of it's owned by the government of Ontario, some of it's owned by local municipalities and local conservation authorities, and even private landowners. So just a few quick facts about the Bruce Trail. Like I said, it is the oldest and longest marked hiking trail in Canada, so that's very exciting. Lots of people from around the country come to hike it. If you were to hike it consecutively, it would take you about a month. That is also depending on your experience of hiking, but I've read a lot of travel blogs that mostly it is about a month long. So the name, the Bruce Trail, is actually linked to the Bruce Peninsula in Bruce County, through which the trail actually runs. And this trail is named after the county, which was named after a man named James Bruce. And James Bruce, who was the 8th Earl of Elgin, he was also the Governor General of the province of Canada from 1847 to 1854. So that's where the namesake comes from. So a little bit of history there, but let's get on to talking about the trail now. So you can see that the beginning of this trail is actually quite flat and easy to trek along. We do have some stones, of course, like we are along the escarpment edge, and as we go along further, like you see up here on the right, there is a lot of big rocks where there have been water erosion from little creeks that run into the escarpment. So that's kind of neat. It gives the land a lot of character. So you can see right now, of course, like this little creek unfortunately has dried up, but it is the dry season, so a lot of the creeks that run through here we're probably not going to see today. So I'm going to go ahead and walk here because I've seen this in the spring where there is actually quite a bit of water flowing. But you can see as I approach it further down that it is completely dried up, which is unfortunate, but that is typically how this works here. I really enjoy seeing all the different rock formations that happen over decades and decades of water erosion. So I think that really gives the trail so much character. So again, there's more rock formation up here. You know, we are on the escarpment edge. This is going to be very, very common. If you watched my video before this at the Niagara Gorge, where we go down onto the escarpment edge, it's not part of the Bruce Trail, but it is definitely a big trail for tourists to go and visit, and you'll see a lot of this kind of thing, like lots of big rocks and boulders that have all kinds of different formations because of water erosion. So let's go ahead and get back on the main trail. We are going to see a lot of this along here, and it is a lot of fun to look at, especially if you're someone like me, you like to go and climb on the rocks. But you can see too that the trail is actually really well shaded. There's tons of trees, and it's super hot today. And it's about 30 degrees. And like I say in all my videos, if you know the Niagara region, you know it's super humid in this area, and these trees actually give you such a nice break from all the humidity. So if you see up here on the left on the tree here, we see a white marker and a blue marker. So the white marker, wherever you are on a trail in the Niagara region up to Tobermory, you see that white marker, that is the Bruce Trail. And because it extends 900 kilometers, it's really easy to go onto other trails that kind of cross and mingle with the Bruce for a little bit. And anything that has the blue marker on it, is just side trails. And you see that a lot throughout the Bruce Trail, is that there's tons of little side trails that take you off and just a little detour, but eventually they all loop back onto the main trail here, which is marked with the white. I do recommend doing the blue trails. They are fun, and they like I said, they loop right back onto the main trails, but I will warn you, I've hiked here so many times. I come here at least once a week. It's my favorite trail to hike. There are so many unmarked bike trails, and you can tell they're bike trails because they're very narrow and overgrown, and there's always bike marks through them. They're not marked, and I've gone and trekked through all of them, and it's so easy to get lost. So if you have a map that outlines those trails, by all means do them, but if not, I highly recommend just sticking to the trails that are marked. And if you don't want to and you're feeling super adventurous, please use an app or a map to follow it, because you're going to get lost. I've done it a million times until I finally decided, okay, I need to track all of my trekking. But it is fun. There is definitely a lot of little side trails to do through here. Okay, so this is pretty exciting because right now, this is our landmark for 2.2 kilometers. Now, I don't know what this is. If anyone knows, please leave a comment, let me know. Maybe I should ask my mom, she probably knows. But yeah, it's cool to me, the structure of it, but I have no idea what it's for. It almost looks like some kind of crane because there seems to be a bit of a pulley system at the top. So again, this does mark 2.2 kilometers. It is a landmark for me every time I'm on this trail, because a lot of times I like to run this trail because you've seen as we've come in for the last 2 kilometers that it's relatively flat, and it's a fun trail to run if you're into that. So we see on the rock right here that there is a white mark, so we are jumping back on the main trail, which is the Bruce Trail, and we're going to keep on going forward. So again, we have another side trail here. This one isn't marked. It's one of those bike trails I was mentioning earlier. If you want to go down them, like I said, please use a map or an app to track it so that if you get lost, you can loop back around onto the main trail. A lot of times what I do is if it's going too far off of the main trail, I just backtrack. I walk back the way I came. So again, there's the white marker. We are staying on the Bruce Trail. We have a little bit of an incline here, not too steep. There, because it is along the escarpment, there are some hills that go up and down. None of them are too steep in this area. There is one particularly steep that we will get to further on in the hike once we hit about 3.5K in. But you can see that one's just little, so I wouldn't worry. This is a pretty easy trail to trek. So if you're touring the area, you're not from the region and you want a trail to try out, I do recommend this one. It is a lot easier to hike than the Niagara Glen going down into the gorge, but of course the gorge has the views, but this one is much easier. It's kind of like a nice stroll in the morning to kind of waken the senses. So you can see up on the tree there, we have a white marker telling us that our Bruce Trail is veering off to the left because there is a little side trail here. Now I only know this because I'm familiar with the trail because I've hiked it all of my life. This little section here just goes straight down and then loops back onto the main trail. So it's probably like 10 feet off of the side and back up in the front. So there are a couple of those. It's not marked. It could be mistaken for a bike trail again. So just, use your discretion when you're out here. I do recommend sticking to everything that's marked. So I'm just doing some cuts along here just to kind of speed us up a little bit because the trail at the beginning is relatively the same. And this right now marks about 2.5 kilometers in. This is the point where most people will trek to and then turn around and leave the trail. This is a very popular area. A lot of people refer to it as the caverns, but it's more of just an open concept. It's just another little escarpment within the escarpment. So I'm going to go ahead and get down here. This is a very steep hill right here, so just be careful and mindful when you come down it. But I want to take you through, and you can see all the different boulders that are stacked everywhere, and I'm going to do a little bit of climbing here because I can't resist a good rock climb. We got a nice breeze too. It's very cooling, very nice, but it's quite common on the escarpment. So I'm just giving you a nice view of everything. I was waiting for the wind to settle down a little bit because it was blowing really loudly in my camera mic. So this kind of looks like some Blair Witch stuff. I'm not quite sure what it is. So you can see that it's like another little escarpment within the escarpment. It's just a huge ledge of boulders randomly stacked like this. Again, I'm going to assume this is just from water erosion over many, many years, because it is on the escarpment. But it is fun. They're just randomly stacked and fallen everywhere. And it's such a, okay, the wind's picking up again, but we're going to go ahead. I'm going to do a little bit of climbing here just to kind of spice things up. Sorry about the wind. I've been trying to wait for it to pass, but it's coming and going in gusts. Luckily, it's very dry today. My mom would kill me if I was out doing this in the rain or just after rainfall, so... But it is a lot of fun to climb. Not too high up, but just enough to give me a little bit of a thrill. So I'm going to be back down here. I was just climbing up one of the edges, but I came back down. Again, just kind of waiting for the gusts of wind to settle down every now and then. So I'm going to take you on up now, back to the main trail. I just want to give you a nice glimpse of this very popular area. It's quite funny because I'm here during the week, so it's not as busy as it usually would be during the summer on a weekend. It does get super, super busy. Luckily, the parking lot is huge. There's lots of spaces to park, but there will be tons of people around here just sitting here, eating, reading, just hanging out. But there is no one today, so that's kind of cool. We got the place to ourselves. So you can see I've just kind of come up from that little ledge now, and I'm getting back out to the main trail. And so now we're on the main trail. I just cut a little bit just to kind of speed us along. But what do you see there in front of me? I'm just going to slowly approach it and let you figure it out. So yeah, it is a snapping turtle. I do want to try and keep a safe distance because snapping turtles actually can bite almost as hard as a human can. And of course, I don't want to scare it. I am treading through their territory. They are common in this area. And I do want to be respectful of the ecosystems here and of course, all the vegetation. But look how beautiful this baby is. And because turtles are one of my favorites, I do want to throw some facts at you. Snapping turtles are actually the largest freshwater turtle in Canada and are actually most common in southern Ontario. So that's where we are, of course. If you notice when I was showing you the tail and the shell and their little paws here, they actually have a very prehistoric type aesthetic about them. They have a stegosaurus-like tail, which is made up of a series of little triangular spikes along it, which is very unique. And as you can see, their shell is typically covered in algae, and they have little paws instead of flippers. So a lot of saltwater turtles have flippers. So I do want to get you back on the main trail, of course, and as I descend this steep hill that's before me, I'm going to throw a few more turtle facts at you. So because these are my favorite omnivores, I can't help but talk about them because they do play such a vital role in keeping lakes and wetlands clean, and they can live up to 70 years of age. They keep the wetlands clean because they actually bioaccumulate toxins from the environment, which is good for keeping things clean, but this actually makes them unsafe for human consumption. But come on, who wants to eat a turtle anyway? They're just too cute. I mean, well, all animals and reptiles are cute. But speaking of cuteness, they are listed as special concern under the Ontario Endangered Species Act because these reptiles are constantly victims of roadside fatalities. So not to leave it on a sad note because we do love turtles, but they are a major player in keeping environment and ecosystems clean. So we love them. So you can see now I am treading down the side of the escarpment here. It was very steep, and it was just kind of a series of switchbacks on, like kind of zigzagging down the edge here just to kind of help break up the steepness. If you do a lot of trekking, especially out in the mountains or down here on the escarpment, you'll know that switchbacks are actually quite common to help break up the steepness of hills and mountains. So again, I'm still kind of getting down the edge here. There's lots of rocks. I'm just taking my time, watching my footing. No need to rush. Safety always comes first, and enjoy it, right? So you can see as I bring the camera back up, it's actually quite steep. I take a step back so you can see. And the trail almost disappears above me because of the steepness. And of course, it zigzags along the mountainside, so it's actually quite hard to see until you're on the trail doing it. I don't know if you can hear the birds singing right now, but it's quite lovely. So we're coming up to a marker here, which is very exciting because I signed the logbook today. And I definitely encourage you to, if you come and visit, sign the book. There's so many people that sign it and they have such beautiful things to say. There are a lot of inspirational quotes that they put in there, and I find them quite lovely and refreshing. So definitely, if you don't want to sign it, even just take a look at it. You can probably hear people talking down to my right as I bring the camera down. So the right there. We are coming into more public property right now. That to my right is a golf course. Further back, when we first started the trail, we were kind of treading along a vineyard, and now we've come into, sorry, not public property, but private property. So we have the golf course, and as I keep moving forward, we're actually going to start to trek through people's backyards. So it's very imperative to be a respectful hiker at this point because the government of Ontario has kind of made a deal with these hikers to let us be here on this trail. It is their property. A lot of the land is privately owned by people who just live here, like residents of the area, but they have been so kind to let us trek through here. So like I said, just be very respectful. Stay on the trail. Don't venture off into the green here, even though it's tempting. One, we don't want to destroy vegetation, and two, we don't want to upset the landowners that are around us. It's pretty exciting because there is a little ladder to climb. May not be some rocks for me to climb, but it's still fun. And of course, there is off to the left, there's a little trail that loops around the fence, so you don't have to do this in case you have any kind of injuries or disabilities that set you back a little bit. I'm just going to show you the trees here because they're so green and so tall and beautiful. And again, the area is nice and shaded. You can hear so many birds singing. You probably hear some traffic too because we're coming out to the end of the Bruce Trail for this first segment. So we're going to keep approaching, and you're going to probably hear more traffic get a little bit louder as we kind of trek through people's backyards essentially towards the main road. So we got some nice breeze picking up again, which is lovely. Just listening to the sounds of nature and the birds. Of course, it's getting drowned out a little bit with the cars. I would say the last probably 500 meters of the hike gets a little bit noisy because we start to approach the main road. So you can see people have some very, very old dilapidated lawn chairs here. But again, because this is trekking through private property. We have our white marker up there. We see, okay, so you can see the houses just across this little creek there. I'm going to try to zoom the camera in a little bit, but I'm not going to step in too far because I want to be respectful. But there's a nice creek there, and of course all the property there. So when you come this way, you're going to see how it goes from being super, super kind of isolated and all of a sudden just going into backyards, which actually is quite common in the Bruce Trail. So you can hear that traffic noise starting to pick up a little bit more. And as I start to approach the road that you can see ahead of me, it's called Town Line Road, Niagara. We're still in Niagara Falls. And if I was to go out to, so there you go, there's a bit of a highway there, it's called the 405. If I was to go out to the right, I would cross St. Paul Avenue and be able to continue the second segment of the Bruce Trail, which actually leads throughout Fireman's Park. Someone's camping here, having a good time. So this is the end of the first segment of the Bruce Trail. It is a point-to-point trail, and I do want to leave you with a few facts as I show you a few pictures, as I always like to do. So there and back, which is what I did, the trail is 10.26 kilometers. Now, if you just want to do it one way and have someone pick you up, it'll take you about 5 kilometers, and that would shave off a lot of time because it took me 2 hours and 10 minutes to do this, but you could probably get it done in about an hour, hour and a half, and the total elevation gain was 148 meters. So I hope you enjoyed trekking the first part of the Bruce Trail with me, and join me for future ones because I'm definitely going to try and get them all done. As always, everyone, keep trekking.